Welcome everybody to the first ever Jewish Education Night of Networking. I am Dean Novick, Rona Novick, the Dean of the Azrieli Graduate School of Jewish Education and Administration. And it is my pleasure on behalf of our partners this evening, who I will thank in a moment, to welcome you to this first ever, but I hope not the last, Jewish Education Night of Networking. My thank you to my colleagues at REITS, our rabbinic school, at the Revel, Bernard J. Revel's School of Jewish Studies, and at the Shevet Glaubach Center for Career Strategy and Professional Development at Yeshiva University, without whom this event could not have happened. But my thanks especially to all of you who are attending and to all of the presenters who have dealt with my harried emails over the past weeks and days and hours, asking for yet more information to put together what I hope will be a wonderful program that allows us to learn together, to share, to be invigorated by what's happening in the field. And what I wanted to talk about in the brief time that I have tonight as I welcome you is teaching in tough times. We're living in tough times, and to think about what educators need, deserve, and can do for themselves and for the learners in their care as we confront the almost 1-year anniversary of the pandemic, as we think about Parshat Shkalim, and we think about celebrating a Purim Sameach that is a very different Purim than we had hoped for or anticipated. Educators, in order to succeed, they need support that's going to ensure that they're successful as teachers, that they're successful as role models in Jewish education, and that they also can experience a personal sense of safety, emotional well-being, and in these very tiring times, continued energy. We need all of these. We need to provide support in all of these areas. And I would argue that we always need to provide this kind of support, but especially in challenging times, we need to attend to how are we supporting ourselves and each other so that we can support our students across these myriad of ways. The support can come from colleagues, from each other, from our administrators and our leadership. It can also come from parents, from students, from family and friends. And yes, we can even be sources of support for ourselves. I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But we have to really mine all of these sources of support to ensure that our educators have what they need to succeed. What I want to share with you is what I call the SAFE approach. I'm at that advanced age where unless it has an acronym, I can't remember it. So it has to spell something or I forget. I call it the SAFF approach, the SAFE approach, and it really is what you can do for you. But as I share these very brief ideas about what you can do for yourself, I hope you'll also think about what you can do for the person next to you in the little Zoom box, for the people in your school, for educators worldwide, and for the students who are in your care. The S in the SAFE approach is a piece that I'm so happy to be able to talk about. And having worked more years than I'll admit in secular settings, it was a piece that I kind of had to put on the side and be private about, not include in my work, but it's our spiritual gift. It's recognizing that in our Masorah, in our approach to life, we have clear vehicles and ways in Shabbat that we have time for taking stock, for seeing how we're doing, for thinking about what kind of support we need, what kind of support we can give. We have vehicles for divine connection through our tefillot and our other means of seeing Hashem in our lives and in our world. We have ways to recognize that we are not alone, that our work is not isolated, even though we may close the door or be quietly in a room Zooming. We are doing sacred work, and we are doing it as part of a sacred mission that is shared by many and that is appreciated both on earth and beyond. We have inherent in our spiritual understanding of the world, very clear Jewish concepts that we are built with a restart. Our life comes with restart mechanisms. It's, we had in Judaism the growth perspective long before it was talked about in modern psychology. It's called Moda'ani, we start new every day. It's called Yom Kippur, where every year we clap the Al Chet, but that's not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter. Our spirituality is one of the keys to being able to do the challenging work that we do in these difficult times. The A has to do with the role of action and meaning. If we stand idle, frozen in a time of challenge, then we wallow. By the way, there's only one letter difference between wallowing and allowing. We do need to allow ourselves to experience sadness. And Dr. Pelkovitz, my colleague, will be speaking tonight about loss and sadness in these COVID times. We need to allow our students, our colleagues, ourselves to be angry about all that COVID has cost us in some very real ways. But we don't need to wallow in it and to just stay stuck. We need to find meaning and find actions that allow us to make sense of what is seemingly a totally chaotic and crazy experience. It may seem like, well, this is something I can't expect my young students, my preschoolers, my first graders, how can they take action, meaningful actions or make meaning? But even very young children can be engaged. We can adjust acts of kindness and giving and empathy in ways that even our youngest students can understand. We need to be careful both with ourselves and our students that we avoid simplistic meaning making. If we say that we're engaging in prayer to make somebody healthy, and then chas v'shalom, they don't experience a miraculous cure, then do our students or do we walk away feeling that our prayers have not been effective or not been heard or not been answered? We can focus on actions that are acts of social justice, of generosity, caring, and gratitude. And I have to say that I have been blown away this year by the examples that you have shared with us, by what our students at Azrieli have told us they are doing in their classrooms, with their classrooms, what schools have done to find meaning and to take action and to make the proverbial lemonade out of the lemons that we've all been served this year. And now for the 2 F's in the SAFE approach. This is one of my favorites. It's fun. It's finding fun and making fun and thinking about, in these really challenging times, what makes you laugh? What makes the people around you laugh? What makes your students laugh? And is there enough laughter in your days and in your lives when we are facing so much difficulty? We often find laughter in the novel, in something that's unusual. We can find fun in role reversals or role mismatches. I'll be the students, you be the teachers and teach me. I'll be the child, you be the parent, you give me the lecture. We can find and make fun in healthy competition, in races and in contests. And again, I have been blown away by virtual color wars and other kinds of healthy competitions and fun events that schools have been planning. And as we approach the holiday of Purim, the ones that I see happening, even as we speak, that are in planning, even as we speak. I feel bad telling people in these difficult times to find fun and make fun, because often fun is not something that can just spontaneously happen. Often it requires preparation and investment. My family happens to love boggle games, but for the less tech savvy elderly members of the family, it doesn't always work with the online versions. And so I shake up the Boggle board, take pictures of it, and screen share a series of different Boggle pictures. So even the least tech savvy in the family can join. It is a little bit of extra work, but the fun is well worth it. And the last F in the SAFE approach is flexibility. I think, and we're about to get hit in the Northeast here with yet another storm. To those of you in Texas, we're thinking of you. Our prayers are with you. In the Southwest and the Midwest that's getting the storm ahead of us, we're thinking of you, and we hope you stay safe and warm and powered, not just empowered, but powered, that like your electricity and your heat is on. But I think in storms always about the kinds of trees that we have here in the Northeast where I live, and palm trees, and how different they are. In the Northeast, when we have a bad storm with heavy winds or a lot of ice, trees, which are here very rigid, they have thick, rigid trunks. Trees here snap off, they lose large branches, they do enormous amount of damage, or if the wind is strong enough, they get totally uplifted, they tip over, taking the sidewalk, the pavement, and a lot of other parts of the environment with them. They topple. They're rigid. They have no give to them. If you are lucky enough to be in Florida or Israel or other places, California, blessed with palm trees, watch them in a storm. They bend. Sometimes they bend almost in half, an upside down U. And when the wind stops, yeah, there'll be a lot of palm fronds on the ground. There may be some coconuts or dates that got lost in the process, but the palm tree comes back to its standing self. Flexibility is an incredible need and skill in times of change and trauma. It promotes something called resilience, which is the ability not to avoid or eliminate trauma, but the ability to manage and deal with trauma and bounce back, if not better than before the trauma, at least to who you were before trauma and challenge and tragedy hit. To have flexibility, we need to change our mindset. We need to accept that change is a part of life, that every day brings new challenges and differences, and that expecting that tomorrow is going to be the same and the next day and the next day, as much as our days in the pandemic do seem unreasonably same, we also are constantly hearing new rules, new regulations, new information, and we have to accept that change is part of the process. At the same time that we have kind of a willingness and an openness to things that are new and different, we also are helped enormously, and we help our youngest students and all of our students if we also can focus on what does not change. What are the things in our world and in our lives that we can count on? For me, the fact that Shabbat happens, it is going to happen every Friday night, and I am going to have 25 blessed hours of peace and quiet and reading and davening. And yeah, there's a lot I'm missing, but Shabbat has not stopped, even though the whole world has changed. Relationships that I have with the people I care most about have not changed. My commitment to Jewish education and to health and growth, it's still there. The wonderful Mr. Rogers was known for saying, in times of crisis, look to the helpers. And what doesn't change is that our world is filled with helpers. And as educators, we need to look at those people in our lives who can be helpers. We need to recognize that we ourselves are helpers and that our students can be engaged as helpers. And we can label every time they wash their hands, social distance, put on a mask, that they're helping also. Now, here's something that sounds like an oxymoron, but you would think that flexibility means being easy come, easy go and not planning. But in fact, planning gives us greater flexibility. Thinking about what will I do if my slides don't work? How will I work if the power goes out? The more options I have, the more likely I'm able to deal with difficult issues. Of course, you want to use tools or develop some of these if you don't already have them. In the first row of this slide are the tools that keep our basic biology working well: sleep, exercise, and nutrition, all of which, by the way, have been impaired in the past months under COVID. But we have to work hard to recognize that our body is a biological entity and it needs our care. And the bottom three items here, relaxation, imagery, and mindfulness, are teachable and learnable skills. Search the internet. You will find endless examples of relaxation exercises, imagery workbooks, and meditation opportunities and ways to teach mindfulness to yourself and to your students. Just one word of advice: you don't teach yourself to drive in the middle of an ice storm in rush hour. You master the skill first in a quiet moment, and only when you've become an expert and a master do you trot out that skill in a time of challenge or crisis. It's the same with these skills. Don't think you're going to go online tonight, right before a major exam, a difficult presentation, a tough day, and learn relaxation that you'll use tomorrow. Like any other skill that you learn, it takes time. And before I leave you to what I hope will be a wonderful and fulfilling evening to meet with colleagues, to hear about opportunities, I want you to know that we're here to help at Azrieli, that our programs are available to you. I'm happy to talk with anyone who's interested about degree programs, including master's, doctoral programs, all of which come with generous scholarships and convenient scheduling, which include right now fully online options and low residence options with very little requirement for attendance on campus. Please do not hesitate to be in touch with us. There's an email on the slide with any questions you have. But even if you're not thinking about a degree, please connect with us every time our courses are published each semester, fall, spring, and summer. We welcome non-matriculated students to join for just a course. Come learn about values in Jewish education with Dr. Pelkovitz, or learning and cognition and problem-based learning with Dr. Krakowski, or teaching the Holocaust with Dr. Sean, or so much more that we have to offer. And finally, are you on our mailing list to receive our publications? I'm very excited that next week at this time, we will be releasing volume 1 of the Azrieli papers dedicated to COVID-19 and Chinuch, lessons learned and opportunities uncovered. Look for that email and the electronic flip book that goes with it. And so I want to close by thanking you for all you do and by reminding you that whenever you fly on an airline, wherever you're going, near or far, the steward or stewardess gives you the same spiel. They always say at some point in the safety announcements, if at any point the cabin experiences a sudden loss of pressure, oxygen masks will drop from the compartment above your head. And what do they tell you to do? They tell you, please affix your mask first, even if you're traveling with others who need your assistance. My fellow Jewish educators, please take care of yourselves. Your work is so important. Thank you for all you do. Please let us know how we can help take care of you. Have a wonderful night of networking and stay well.
Thank you.
Thank you all.